All right, so we're going to talk about sea shipping now and kind of very step by step, essentially, what is the whole process look like from a very high level view here. And then maybe we'll talk about some pitfalls that people run into with it. So do you want to kind of explain how would you define the whole process of sea shipping?
Yeah, I love sea shipping. I'm a huge fan.
Oh, a rare man.
A rare
Loves sea
man.
shipping. All
I'm one of
right.
the, I'm one of the few. But sea shipping it's not as complicated as a lot of people think when they're first starting out. If you're engaged with the freight forwarder, they're going to be able to handle that process end to end. So the biggest area that I see people, either struggle with or kind of get held up with is just expectations, because you've put in so much work to get your product to this point. You just want the shipping just to move quickly. There never to be any sort of delays, and it's just to get from point A to point B on a guaranteed date and get into Amazon's fulfillment centers. But moving something internationally, there's a lot of moving parts. It's very complicated. Up to 10 people will touch the product, touch that shipment. And so there's always room for some delays here and there. But if you're engaged with a great freight forwarder, they're going to be able to communicate, keep you up to date, and really make sure you know what to expect. So when it comes to sea shipping, if you think about it on a very high level, the freight forwarder is going to assist with getting the product from, let's start with like a small ocean shipment, because that's what I see typically. So you typically won't have enough to fill up a container, going back to the volume. When you get to like 18 CBMs, that's when you would have potentially a full container. Most people, when they're just launching and they have 500 units or 1,000 units, it's not going to even be close. So it's going to be a smaller shipment called LCL. So the freight forwarder is going to help get that shipment from the supplier to what's called a CFS. It's a container freight station. And basically all that means is it's a warehouse where a bunch of small shipments are going to get aggregated and put into a container. And then from there, the container is going to get taken to the port, where it's going to get put onto a vessel. It's going to come across to the United States, and then basically the whole process is done in reverse. So it's taken to another CFS, and this time it's going to be unloaded and separated so the warehouse knows where all the different shipments are going. Because if you're in a container with different shipments, other clients, some might be going to Amazon, some might be going to a 3PL or someone's house. So they got to split it up. And then let's say, for example, you're having Amazon's, partner FedEx come pick it up. FedEx is simply going to come from that warehouse and then take it to the final Amazon warehouse that it is supposed to go to. So that's the very high level of sea shipping and how it works. I'll kind of highlight now, within that model, what's important to know. One is, of course, labeling your shipment when it's overseas. I think it's really important to know that you can and should have your supplier apply all the labels to, the units and the cartons, so the shipment can just move. Because if you think about it, if your shipment and your cartons already have, all the labels put on, when it shows up to that warehouse in the United States, then there's nothing that needs to be done. No labeling needs to be done. FedEx can simply just pick it up and get taken to Amazon. A lot of warehouses are going to have a dedicated FedEx pickup. So it makes the process very easy for them just to take it and then put it onto FedEx's truck and take it to Amazon. Number two is going to be palletization. So palletization, we get a lot of questions. Should I palletize? I don't know if I need to palletize. What do I do here? One rule of thumb is that you only palletize in China if your shipment is fragile. So think about, glass or electronics. The reason being is that suppliers are very rarely going to be able to palletize to Amazon's specifications. And as we all know, Amazon's very specific in what they need. So if your shipment is...
So you're going to get a supplier essentially that they don't know the standards, so they're all going to palletize differently, and then you might just have to repalletize in the U.S. anyways. Is that kind of what the theory is? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So some people will do it because they just don't know, or they think that it might be cheaper. But then when we get the pallets at our warehouse in, say, Los Angeles, we see, oh, this is not pallet. It's either, plastic pallets or not done to the right dimension. So we just have to redo everything, and then you get charged. You're basically getting double charged for the same service. Yeah. But if your goods are fragile, they could break, and you want to make sure that they all stay together on a pallet. That's the only time that I would have that happen there. And that's palletization. So that's labeling, palletization. The next one is customs. A lot of people have a lot of questions on customs. So we'll start with, a customs bond. If you're going to work with a freight forwarder, they're going to require that you have a customs bond. Some companies do single entry bonds where you pay a one-time fee for every shipment that you move, or there's an annual customs bond where you pay once for a bond and it's good for an entire year. So work with your freight forwarder and ask which one of those two they offer and what the prices are. For an annual customs bond, if you're looking just for a price range, we charge $350. I've seen them go up to like $600 for the annual bond, just to kind of give you a ballpark there. And so that is just for the right to import from overseas and to come into the United States. That's a customs bond. That is different than duties, which is the duties that are potentially assessed on your product when you come into the United States.
So are duties the same as tariffs?
No, that's a great question. Duties are different than tariffs. So duties have been around for a very long time. It's basically based on the type of product that you import. So every single product that comes into the United States has a very specific code. Your supplier you can work with your supplier to get the code and then take that code to your freight forwarder to make sure that it's correct. But basically that code lets you know how much in potential duties that you could be paying. Now, I'll break that down how it works, because it's based on the commercial value of your goods, which is the price that you paid your supplier to make them. So duty percentages can range from 0%, to, let's say, 25%. So let's say you get your code, you go with your freight forwarder, they say, hey, the duties percentage is 10%. Then if you paid your supplier, let's just say $1,000 to make your goods, then the duties on that shipment would be $100, and that's duties. Tariffs are completely different but similar. It's, we enacted them this year, and that is an additional amount on top of duties.
So if it's like 1,100, now the tariffs are on that. Like if tariffs were 10%, would they be 10% on that 1,100 then? If you had a tariff on yours?
The tariff is also on the commercial invoice value. So it would be on that $1,000 as well. And so basically, at the time of this recording, to simplify it, there was 3 lists of products that came out where we said there were tariffs. This is the present coming out there. It's called List 1, List 2, and List 3. List 1 and 2 don't apply to private label sellers. There's probably a one-off in there, but it's mainly industrial type products and machinery. But where we did see this take impact is List 3, because there are commercial products in there. And so at the time of this recording, the tariff amount is 10%. And then starting January 1st, 2019, it's going up potentially to 25%. And you can, go on Google to look up whether your HTS code, your product code, is on that list, and you would have to pay those tariffs.
If you're selling flamethrowers, I'm sorry, guys, there's now a tariff. Anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know if Elon Musk got it, though, because it's not a flamethrower. So he might have. But anyways, they're making it.
Might have circumvented that one.
Yeah. Cool. So that's tariffs and duties, and then shipping bonds. So those are essentially the three things. So you'd mentioned that essentially you're originally sharing a container. And then, at what point does it make sense to actually get your own container? Because I know that when you're sharing it, there's benefits. Like you're paying more for that part of the container, but you're sharing it with other people. And if somebody else makes a foul, then your stuff
Yep.
might be held. So essentially, like, is there a certain amount of a container where it's just like, maybe just go with this yourself? Because I think there's like a certain amount where you don't, it's actually cheaper to not even fill the whole container versus sharing it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the rule of thumb when to, start having this conversation with your freight forwarder is 18 CBMs. So, there's multiple sizes of containers. The
Yep.
smallest one is a 20-foot that holds roughly, if you really packed it well, let's say 28 CBM. But the prices can start converging once you get up to that 18 cbm mark, and so that's what I would ask. And you're absolutely right in saying that there is some risk when you're doing the smaller LCL that you have other clients or other people make a foul, and that maybe a customs exam comes from that. But you should work with your freight forwarder, because we at Flexport do offer the service where it's only Flexport clients in the container for
Oh,
LCL.
that's nice. So you're not with some random shady other person importing
Yeah, so
drugs
we,
or
yeah,
something. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah. So, and then that way too, and it also can depend on just people getting in the paperwork on time. If there's other freight forwarders that have clients in there, there's risk there. But for our shipments from Southeast Asia to the U.S., it's only Flexport clients. And then two, with like full containers, we do have programs as well that where if your container is not filling the entire container, but you're still doing a full container, and it's not really a time sensitive shipment, like an extra 5 business days wouldn't make a difference for you, we will actually buy back that space from you and put another Flexport client in it as well. And that can save you hundreds of dollars. Not to get in too much into the high level strategy of it all, but that's basically like what to think about, when it comes to LCL and full containers. And I kind of touched on a topic there that I do want to spend a little bit of time on, is customs exams. So a lot of questions on that. How does it happen? When does it happen? What can I do to avoid it?
It happened on my first one. Got held by 3 months because of a
3 months?
ball and drop test or something
Oh,
for
wow.
glasses. Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Oh, that is a nightmare, because that, like, 3 months is really long. So,
Yeah, I was like,
and
come on.
yeah, because typically there's different types of exams that range from just putting it through an X-ray to what's called an intensive exam, where someone goes in and actually looks at the product. If you're looking at the intensive exam, that can, let's say, add a couple of weeks, 3 weeks tops, to the actual transit time. So that's something to be aware of. And the government's not going to release, what exactly triggers a custom exam. They're not going to show all that. But we do see that, if it's your first time ever shipping, or it's a brand new product, there is an increase of having an exam. It doesn't guarantee it, but that can increase it. So that's something to be aware of,
Mm.
especially when you're looking at transit times and refilling orders. You don't want to cut it close, because with an ocean shipment, you're looking anywhere from 30 to 40 days if all goes to plan. And so you could add a couple weeks onto that. And then also too, Amazon takes a little bit to receive your inventory and check it in as well. And that can be a couple of weeks during the busy time as well too. So that's something to be aware of.
So, okay, so with regards to Amazon receiving inventory, do you see a difference in their processing time if it's going to be palletized versus not palletized? Like if it just comes in a normal case, that
Yeah.
versus like a pallet. Have you noticed or know anything about that? If there's like a difference?
Yeah, it's. I would say that the biggest contributing factor to how long it takes to process, like the 80/20, is going to be how busy they are. So it depends on the time of year. If it's during the holidays and Q4, then you're definitely going to see longer check-in times and processing times. Um, Also, so what you want to be aware of, when you're thinking about shipping, is just a couple of dates. Like Q4 is going to be busy, so expect delays with all parts of the process during that time. And then also there's things like Chinese New Year that's coming up. That's typically sometime in February, where China takes some time off for 2 weeks. Before and after that, 2-week period is really busy as well. So you want to pay attention to those dates. I would like write them down in your calendar or whatever you use to, track what you need to do with your business. But that is what like affects the check-in time the most. And then from there, if you have SPD, which is standard parcel delivery, FedEx or UPS, doing that final trucking from the warehouse in the United States to Amazon, that gets checked in faster than LTL. And that's something to highlight as well too, which I think is important, is, the freight forwarder is going to handle everything that we've talked about, basically end to end from your supplier to the warehouse in the United States. But from there, Amazon is going to be responsible from trucking it from the warehouse to their fulfillment centers. And there's two ways to basically do that with LCL that we've been talking about. One is going to be, FedEx or UPS, which is SPD, and the other one's LTL. People ask, well, which one should I, use? A good rule of thumb is that if you're shipping 30 cartons or less, you want to go the FedEx UPS route. 30 cartons or more, you want to consider using LTL. Now, I do want to highlight there are differences that you need to be aware of. SPD, UPS, FedEx is much faster than LTL, especially during the busy times, because LTL, it's not Amazon's trucks coming and picking it up. They basically have a network of all these local truckers. So imagine just all these like local mom and pop trucking shops, bigger trucking places coming in and picking it up. That can take some time. There can be delays there. I've seen anywhere in peak times from, 2 weeks from when they pick it up to I've seen 4 to 6 weeks when they're super, super slammed.
Well, isn't there like, I remember reading the requirements, and essentially if you're doing LTL, you have to get an appointment weeks ahead of time. And if you like miss that appointment, it's like, well, you got to get back on the list, right? It's essentially, that's kind of how it works. Whereas UPS and FedEx, like they're coming every day. So it's like if you're off by a day or something, it's like, okay, whatever, they're going to process you. Is that kind of why?
Yeah. So that's a good point as well. It's that, and the trucking companies just take a long time sometimes. They're not, going as fast as possible. Amazon, has a container yard full of containers that need to be, taken out. So there's that as well. What I will say with the appointments, because the one point I like want to make clear is that like there is a lot of complexity and a lot of kind of nitty gritty details like this, but your freight forwarder is going to be handling it all. So when you're learning about shipping and moving goods internationally, it's not, you're learning it because you want to, be better at running your business, but it's not like if you don't learn a certain one thing or not, you're going to make the mistake. Your freight forwarder is going to be handling it. So from, our point of view, when it comes to appointments, we're setting those for our clients. So basically, at a high level, we do ask for third-party access to our clients' accounts. We can only see shipments and freight-related things, not the actual, like listings and stuff like that. But the reason why we do that is it makes it very efficient for us because we can schedule appointments. If we can do creative things, like if an appointment is missed or too far out, we have multiple appointments. So we can kind of swap in and out appointments to move things as fast as possible. So you don't have to manage all that. So it's good to learn that you do have to set an appointment. Since we have a technology platform, triggers that say, hey, like this shipment is X amount of days from the port, that like it's time to schedule an appointment. That way there's the least amount of days wasted in between.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, because I thought about doing LTL before, but it was like I was trying to do it from my place, because like we were shipping everything out from the United States here, and then I was like, oh, I'll just ship it all in. But I had less than 30 every time, and like it was my shipping boxes were like $8 a piece to Amazon. So I was like, okay, I'll do this.
Just send it in. Yeah, and with FedEx and UPS, you can send in up to 200 cartons as well. So it's not like 30 is a hard cutoff, because I've had clients that say their product's selling faster than they anticipated. They still did ocean and not air because they didn't need to get it in super fast. But once it got to the United States, they definitely wanted it to get checked in. So they're willing to pay more to ship at FedEx UPS, just so it could get checked in and be available to sell versus LTL. So it kind of depends on where you're at. But with that knowledge, you kind of know everything you need to know to make the decision that's best for your business.
Okay. So switch the topic. So let's say somebody's coming to you guys and they're behind on their shipment. Okay. So essentially, are they able to with Flexport, essentially, do partial amount air freight and then partial amount sea shipping? What are kind of the options if you're behind, per se?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we run into that a lot, actually. So with a shipment, anything's possible. So if I'm just gonna use easy numbers, you're running out of stock quicker than expected. You're manufacturing 1,000 units. If you want, say, 300 of those to go by air and then 700 to go by ocean, that can definitely happen. A freight forwarder can help you do that. That's two separate shipments. They'd provide you a quote for each, and then you would book each one to move. So that would just be two separate shipments, and that can definitely be done. So air shipments is like 8 to 10 days, whereas ocean's like 30 to 40. So you kind of have to look at how much inventory you're selling per day, when you expect to run out, and then whether you want to use ocean or air to get it in from there based on that math.
Yeah, definitely. Because I really focus on lead time being super huge, and you never want to go out of stock. So, definitely pays to spend the extra to get that, to make sure you don't go out of stock with that 300. So, but like from perspective of a client, it's no more really complex than just telling your freight forwarder, hey, I want some to come air and some to come sea, and you just pay for both. And it's nice and easy like that, essentially. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people just like think it's like, oh, it's complex. Like I have to, organize all this, but it's like, you just find somebody to help you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you think about it from the freight forwarder's point of view, there is, just some basic information that we need. One is going to be your supplier's information. So we need to know, even if it's FOB and we're, taking over once it's at the port, there's legal documents that need to be filed. So we need your supplier's information, where they're based, their contact information. We need to know the information about the shipment. So think about all the carton dimensions, the weight, that info. We need to know the type of product that is coming in. So you want to have the HTS code from your supplier. You want to have a description of the type of product as detailed as you can be. We need to know the final destination of where it's going, whether it's one Amazon warehouse or multiple. That way we know which port to come in through and how to set it up, because we have warehouses across the entire United States. If most of your stuff's going to the East Coast, we should come in, from the East Coast. If it's coming to the West Coast, likewise there. So if you think about shipping at a high level, it's like, where is the goods coming from? What are the goods? Tell me about the dimensions of those goods, and then where is it going to at the end in the United States? And then we set everything up from there. So once we get that information, we're going to be able to, book space on the airline or the ocean carrier and give you a schedule up front that lets you know when to expect it if everything goes to plan. So you have a rough idea of when it should go in.
Awesome. So on top of that, do you guys have any partnered, like, let's say somebody's shipping a lot in and it's like, oh no, I don't want to send it all into Amazon right now. Do you guys have like any partnered places where it's like, okay, we can go and store it somewhere, or like any suggestions of, kind of how people, okay, I have a lot, Amazon Q4 storage a lot, like, where am I going to store this and like get it from, to the storage and back, like, do you guys offer any service like that, or where to go?
Yeah, definitely. So that is an important aspect as well. So whether your shipment is going to Amazon, a 3PL, or your own house, that can be coordinated as well. So we just need that type of information when you first set up the shipment to really coordinate those moves. We have we have all those things, and we also have partners in some of the places where we don't have those things. When it comes to, we even have like our own charter airplane that we fly only our clients on as well. If you're
Really?
coming out of,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So it's really a great product that we launched this year. We have, storage in our own warehouses that we do moves from. But then we also have partners. The one that we highly recommend is ShipBob. If you're looking for 3PL work or for storage before sending it in, they're a 3PL with technology, so set up in the same way where it's really about having someone that you work with that's a partner and having technology that makes things very visible and clear, so you know what to expect
Yes.
and you can ask questions. That's how you learn, and that's how you make the whole process better. So that's who we would recommend there. But yeah, we have an entire network of truckers across the United States. And so that's really how we've been able to really grow and be successful, is that infrastructure, the technology, and the people.
Awesome. Just one question on shipment plans. So, like,
Yes.
essentially, I know you guys can get third-party access, but do you still? So, when using Flexport, do you still? They make the shipping plan, and then they hand it over to you, or yeah. How does that work with you guys? Like, somebody's gonna make a shipment through you.
Yeah. So when it comes to shipment plans, there are a few things. One, I don't know if this gone over another video, but case packed versus individual packed in there. So people have questions on that. If you have one SKU, then it's case packed. That's typically the case. The most important one, though, is the ship from address. So it's going to ask you for the ship from address. A lot of people think the ship from address means where their supplier is located.
Oh,
But that's,
really? I didn't know that because I always just put like which warehouse do I want it to go to, and then I just put an address like in that area. So I can
yeah,
pick and choose which warehouse it tells me to. I kind of hack around with it. But yeah. Where is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be where you're shipping from, not your supplier in China, right?
yeah, exactly. If you put your supplier's address, then Amazon really doesn't know where it's coming into in the United States, and they typically assign you a warehouse in the middle of the United States, like Texas,
Ooh.
just because they just don't know. But when you're working with a freight forwarder, you want to put their warehouse in Los Angeles because that gives you the highest chance to have a delivery location that's on the West Coast. And the reason that's important is because the West Coast is the closest to China, and it's going to be the most effective cost wise if you can be on the West Coast. There's no way to force that to happen. It depends on their algorithm, where their fulfillment centers are at. But that's like to try and get that, you can set it up that way. And then also too, when it comes to shipment plans, and working with us, you don't finalize them. You can leave them in working status because we can go in and if we need to print labels, get the pallet dimensions in there as well and book the appointments. So we do that as well. And then it's also important to know if you're trying to calculate the final trucking from the warehouse to Amazon, that can be done in Seller Central as well too. You don't want to finalize these costs unless you're ready to move forward, but that can be done as well too. For SPD FedEx, all you have to do is put in the carton information, so how many cartons and how big they are. And then if it's LTL, you just need to fill in some kind of dummy information to get an estimate. And so I'll run through that real quickly because not a lot of people know that you can do this to get an estimate. But you basically, for the dimensions, you put in 48 by 40 by 72 for the pallets. For the number of pallets, you divide the total CBM by 1.5 to get the total number of pallets. For the weight,
Oh.
for the weight of each pallet, you just divide the total CBM by the number of pallets you just calculated. For freight class, you put 100. In the freight ready date, you put the most like the closest date to get an estimate. You don't want to finalize those because your freight forwarder should be doing it because they're the ones that are going to palletize and put the right information in. But if you want an estimate to just know and have an idea, you can put in that information in there.
Yes, because if you hit finalize, you just made an order, you just made an agreement, and they just took it out of your account. So
yep.
You might be able to undo it. I know you can with UPS and FedEx pretty easily, but you got to do it right away.
Yep.
So just don't finalize it right away.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for that calculation to help estimate the palletization cost and LTL.
Yeah, definitely. My pleasure.